Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining us. Let's start in about 2 or 3 minutes at 9:05. Well, 1 more minute. Okay. Thank you so much for joining us today. Today we're going to talk about attitude and some related concepts, including success. So one of the things we're going to talk about is that the importance of attitude and to be mindful, to notice what is our attitude at any given time. So if you write down, like right now, what is your attitude? And maybe what is the reason why you have this particular attitude? Attitude can be positive or negative, but most of the time it's used in a negative sense. So we will start with dua. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Okay, so I will check the chat from time to time, and feel free to raise your hand. And we have a relatively small group, and it can be more interactive. So the subject today is the impact of attitude on success or on failure. The topics that we're going to talk about today is what is success, what is perspective, the growth mindset and the fixed mindset. The growth mindset is kind of like being a solution-oriented approach or attitude. Fixed mindset is like a problem-oriented mindset. And then path to learning, enemies, self-talk and self-love, higher purpose, relationships, role models, altitude and attitude, and then question and answers. I want to thank Sabah Masood and the group Healing with Natural Medicine for initiating this presentation. I also want to thank the other PTCC graduates and groups and other groups and communities who are joining us today. And thank you to our family and friends, new and old friends, and the different communities who are joining us today. And I want to thank the countless teachers who have taught me and mentored me. A short introduction about me. I am a therapist. I have a master's in social work. Social work is a field which combines psychology and sociology. I have over 30 years of experience working as a life coach, as a peer counselor, as a relationship coach, as a group facilitator. I have also worked on production teams of retreats for personal development. And these retreats were for men, for women, for boys. In my past career, I was in the computer field, and I'm also an artist, and some of my writings and my work is on my blog and on my YouTube channel, which is Global Zebra. And I have a book coming up, inshallah, in May or June. So to start, there are two factors that we're mostly talking about: success and attitude. So the impact of attitude on success or failure. So before talking about attitude, let's talk about success. What is success? So here is a interactive part. What is success? How do you define success? You can come off mute. We have a relatively small group. Anybody? This will be more interesting if we have interaction. How do you define success, or what does success mean to you?
Oh, can I try?
Yes.
Okay, for me, I think it's if you have that internal satisfaction, that would be probably success for me.
Very good. Very good. Anybody else? There's no right answer. People define success in different ways. Well, maybe you don't have to make it personal. You could say, how do most other people define success? Anybody?
Yeah, mostly people are defining it, associating it with some achievements that they have just plotted down for themselves, and like achieving those plans or milestones. They're defining it as success.
Yes, yes. A lot of time, people measure success in the form of money. And often it's two things, like Sabah, what you said is more of internal fulfillment, which is, you could say, the heart or internal. And the other often way of defining success is money, or you could say something material or achievement. And also, other ways of looking at success is, for example, as Muslims, we want to have success in this world and also success in the hereafter. And like what Sabah just said, that success can be internal, a feeling of contentment or fulfillment. And the external part can be relationships. If I have good relationships with people, I can feel fulfillment or more purposeful and feel more successful, or a sense of success. So another way of looking at success is, as it was mentioned, like, it could be an achievement. So as we were in a book club with Sabah and Sadaf earlier, so that book club was talking about the book Emotionally Immature Parents. So one of the biggest achievements or success a person can make is to not repeat the mistakes of the parents. Another one of the biggest achievements a person can make is to heal themselves, because hurt people hurt people. And that was also a point in the book discussion, that if you haven't healed yourself, you might end up, hurting somebody else. So hurt people hurt people. Another way of looking at success is doing one thing better than anyone else and developing an expertise and because of that, you get recognition. And because of your expertise, you have an ability. And for that ability, you are granted a certain status or recognition. And for that skill, you are highly paid. So you could say a person is successful when they have reached a level of expertise for which other people seek them out and pay them a good amount of money. And another way of looking at success is fulfillment, a feeling of fulfillment through relationships. And relationships have 7 elements, and I will touch upon that a little bit later. From PTCC, some of the people here today are graduates of the PTCC course of ERDC from Pakistan. And one of the points, an important point from that course is, are you looking to increase your quality of life or to raise your standard of living? And that some people would define success as, the more I raise my quality of living, the more successful I am. Other people will say, I feel successful when I have a high quality of life. So if on the B side, raising the standard of living is to raise the status or getting a promotion or something to do with materialism. And so these are like kind of on the opposite side. So on this side, status is important. On this side, raising in spiritual practice is important. On this side, contentment is important, which is internal. And this side is promotion, which is external. Better relationship versus materialism. Some people will disagree with that label. But to live happy or look happy, or when going after standard of living, one can experience dissatisfaction. Like if we're competing with others and trying to keep up with the Joneses, and like, why don't I have this brand name? I have to raise my standard of living and do what other people are doing. So a principle related to that is comparison is the thief of joy. Comparison is the thief of joy. So when we are comparing ourselves to others, we're going to say, why don't I have this? Why are they, doing better than me? And that's going to make me unhappy. Especially as we get older, better health is an important factor in, they call it quality of life. Somebody might be sick or old, and they will say, what I'm looking for is to increase my quality of life. And so on. So some people will define success as quality of life. As they improve their quality of life, they feel more successful or more fulfilled. Other people will define success as they're raising their standard of living, they got a nicer car, they keep upgrading it, they got a bigger house, a mansion, they keep upgrading that, and so on. So I'm not saying that B is wrong, I'm just saying some people define success that way. So let's see, next. So now let's talk about the other part of this topic for today, is attitude. I'm going to play this video. I hope the audio is good. I'm going to pause for a little bit to make sure you can hear the audio. Can you hear the audio?
Yes. It just started, I think.
Can you hear the audio?
Yes, but it's not very clear.
Okay. So what I'll do is I'll post this video link in the chat, and it's only a 4-minute video. So you all can play it on your own computer. So it's only 4 minutes, although it says 4:41. The last 40 seconds are just credits. So let's play this and then we'll come back in 4 minutes.
Okay, sure.
Hmm. So, what did you notice about this video? You can go off of mute or you can type it in the chat. Sorry, I forgot to look at the chat earlier when I asked the question before.
Okay. So there was this old woman who picked up the snack, and then she's waiting for her bus to come, and there was this other guy who was sitting there who had a similar snack. He was eating his own snack, and the lady thought that he's taking from her snack, and she was frustrated. She was unable to, she was not communicating with him properly, which caused her to get distressed and frustrated, and finally she found out the reality that her snack was in her bag. So I think it was like this lady, she was lacking these good communication skills, something like that. That what I could make out of it.
So again, there is no right or wrong answer, but thank you, Sabah. That was good. Thank you. Any other observations? So it's just a fun video, but it can be used to illustrate a point. Like,
Assalamu alaikum. She was actually not present minded, and she even didn't realize that she opened her snack pack or not. So she frustrated on the young boy. Um, she was not full of her mind, and she was not present minded, I think.
a very good point. So being present-minded, wasn't fully present, and like Shabana wrote, it's about perception. She had a wrong perception or misperception about the young man. So one of the key points we're looking at in this video is this idea of perception. So Tahira says she was not present-minded and didn't realize that she opened her snack or not. And like Momina said, exactly, this is the main point here about the video is perception. And Umara says young boy is cute. So yes, and what else? I'm looking at the chat. It shows when emotions go up, the intelligence goes down. Really good point, Nida. When emotions go up, intelligence goes down. That's an amazing point, really amazing. Very important point. So, for example, in psychology, we talk about when the person is angry, literally a part of the brain shuts down. They call it flipping the lid, and the brain is not working. So with our children or with our spouses or with anyone, coworkers and so on, in-laws, when they are angry, whatever you're saying, it's not getting through. So it's kind of like the kid had the headphones on, the emotions do not allow the person, or the anger does not allow the other person to be able to get through. So very important point. Let me read the other chat real quick. When emotions go up, intelligence goes down. Oh, overthinking, and she was frustrated from the start to the end. So very good point. Your state of mind, she was frustrated when she got to the bench, right? She was frustrated from the beginning to the end, but at the end, she was like smiling. He happily shared. So yeah, it's also about like like Umara said, he happily shared. Don't judge a book by a cover. So one of the things we're going to talk about is like when she saw him, what does she see? You know, what does she, how does she see him? So in social work or in sociology, there is an idea of how to make other people invisible. So the people that we don't like. So like, you know, in social work, we talk about the macro and the micro. So for example, here in America, I'm in Los Angeles, we have the American empire, and we have the news media and society saying when they see white refugees of Ukraine, their heart breaks for them, their heart bleeds for them. But when they see brown or black poor people or refugees or the people of Palestine, it's invisible. Those people are made invisible, which is different from invisible. Those people are visible, but in our perception, they can be made invisible. And real quick, Samia said we take others' kindness for granted. Yes, good point. And Asad Zaidi says, welcome, Mr. Zaidi. The point is perceived values. Yes, very good point. Sadaf says less focus. And Nida says one more thing. I observed that observations or assumptions can flip the situations to worse or maybe guilty afterwards. That's right. So what is the opposite of making assumptions? This is part of selective vision when people choose to see what they want to see, says BB John. Very good point. So what is the opposite of assumptions? Making assumptions.
Being open-minded.
Yes. So one way to deal with or to counter assumptions is when I'm going to make an assumption, the opposite is I should ask questions. So the opposite of, for me, when I'm making an assumption, the opposite of that would be that I should ask questions. So we'll go on to the next part. So this video was an illustration of perspective, and the woman's perspective in this case about the young man and what happens with the cookie and that whole interaction. That her attitude, like somebody said, she was frustrated from beginning to end. We could say frustration was part of her attitude and her approach. So that colored everything that happened. So here, next question. In this picture, what do you see? What do you notice? What do you notice in this picture?
A glass of water,
Uh-huh. Good.
and
What else?
there are some lemons, and there is one lemon which is cut into a half,
Very good.
and one of the other lemons, it seems a little not so very fresh.
Uh-huh. Very good. Anything else? So Nida says half of a lemon, glass of water with some lemons. When life throws lemons at you, make lemonade. Very good. Asad says glass half empty or half full. Yes. So ready for some action. Okay. Very good. So is the glass half empty or half full? So there are many perspectives, right? And somebody actually said, you know, when life gives you lemons, you make lemonade. So if we say that the glass is half empty or half full, it's not wrong or right. So but for this particular example, to use this as an example, if I emphasize that the glass is half empty, 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 so that I am being in a problem-oriented attitude. But if I focus on the glass is half full, then I'm looking at what's there instead of what's missing. So if I say the glass is half full, that could mean that I'm being in a solution-oriented attitude. So being problem-oriented can be an attitude, like we were saying in the earlier book discussion, that could be a victim, a perspective of a victim, or an attitude, or holding a mindset of victimhood, that my life is empty, or this is missing, or that is missing. Why don't I have this? Why don't I have that? So that could be a problem-oriented attitude or approach. But the other side, so when I notice that my attitude is being problem-oriented, then I have to shift to an attitude of being solution-oriented. So another perspective is that the glass is always full. The half part is water, but the other part is full of air. So there are many ways of looking at that same glass of water. So the realist will say, there's a glass of water. The physicist will say there's liquid and gas. The artist will say, okay, there's some water for me to paint or to wash my brush. The skeptical person might say, that's not water, and so on. So we're talking about perception. And as we looked at the video and some of the comments, that perception is reality. And the key point about perception and attitude is, once I recognize, if I'm mindful of my perception, then I can shift my perception. If I'm mindful of my attitude, I can shift my attitude. Okay. So now, talking about attitude. What is the definition of attitude? So what is the definition of attitude? Let me check the chat. Anybody? What is the definition of attitude?
I think it comes from your perception.
Uh-huh. And
Yeah, so
good. What else? So sometimes we say this person has a bad attitude, or we might say this person has a good attitude. I like your attitude. What does it mean? Nida says attitude is our actions based on our perceptions. I think that's a good way of defining it. Mia says the way you react or behave. And Momina says how we take things. Very good. All of these are part of attitude, way of looking at things. That says Asima. Asad says state of human emotions at a given time. Very good. How we make sense of life. Ashraf says mental activity. Shabana says attitude comes from your thoughts. Yes. Kuljit says, welcome, Kuljit. It is you. It is you see others, and it's how you see others and treat others. Very, very good. And Ahmed says, way of presenting ourselves on behalf of our emotions. Very good. That's a good definition of attitude. How we react. Attitude is our persona that we radiate. I think that's one of the best definitions right there. I haven't heard it put that way. I should write that down. I appreciate that. Persona we radiate. That's awesome. That is a really, really excellent definition of attitude. It is our thinking that shape our mental model. So thanks, Dr. Nasira. Nasira, for that. Tahira says, our emotions, feelings based on our nature. Yes. So some people, so Muniba says our behavior. So what Tahira is saying, our emotions, feelings based on our nature. So some people call it a disposition, or some people call it our demeanor. Sadia says way of thinking, viewing things. Yes, that's right. So like Dr. Nasira said, the persona we radiate, or attitude, is a way of being. A way of being. It's a mindset, but mindset often means it's fixed. So if the attitude is fixed, then we could say it's a mindset. But mindset is a form of attitude. Often attitude is called context, or frame of reference, the way you're looking at things, a context you are holding, an attitude you're holding. It's also an invisible sign that you're holding. So when in the video, when the lady saw the young man, what she saw is something like this young man is holding a sign, and she wrote something on that sign. So he has written something on the sign, but she also, wrote something on that sign. So attitude is an invisible sign you're holding. It's where you're coming from. So sometimes somebody might say to you, they might be upset with you, and they might say to you, I don't like what you're saying. I don't like where you're coming from. Where are you coming from? So what they're asking is, I don't like your attitude. Can you check your attitude? So attitude is also approach, demeanor, disposition. So an example of attitude is, to hold this attitude is that you are never with another person who's not your teacher in some way. So you can hold a default attitude is to be humble, or to be teachable, or to be supportable, or to be a lifelong student. So when we are with somebody, we can go to this default attitude of I'm a learner. And as we were kind of talking about, especially in the chat, about the video, that maybe the lady was not paying attention, or being mindful. So being mindful is another way of saying to pay attention. So another part of attitude is like, so I have to be conscious of my attitude all the time. So this can be difficult, is to be mindful and be reflective all the time, and to ask myself all the time, what is my attitude right now? What is my attitude right now? And so I have to pay attention to my attitude. So one way to look at it is that everything that transpires in my life will reveal something about me as a man. It will reveal something about me as a leader. It will reveal something about me in relationship, but only if I pay attention. So I have to pay attention to what's going on around me, but also what's going on inside me, and what is my attitude. So at any given moment, I am holding an attitude. There's some attitude that I'm holding at any time. So it is the persona that I'm radiating at any given time. And most of the time, we're not conscious of our attitude. So what's important is to be conscious of what is the attitude I'm holding right now. And most of the time, you might have a common attitude that, so let's say if the lady's attitude at that time is being frustrated, so maybe a person often holds this context of being frustrated. And that becomes their default attitude, a common attitude that they hold. So we have to be mindful of our current attitude, And then the next question is to ask, this attitude that I'm holding, is it the best attitude for this particular situation? So if it's not the best attitude for this particular situation, then I have to shift my attitude, like shifting my perception. So if I'm looking at the glass half empty, if that's not the best attitude, most effective attitude at that time, then to shift my attitude and say, oh, the glass is half full. So now I've shifted my attitude to something that's more effective, which can get me better results. So you can have a default attitude, and then a go-to attitude is, so when I notice that the attitude that I'm holding right now is not the best attitude or the most effective attitude for this particular situation, then I might be thinking, okay, what attitude do I need to hold? What attitude do I need to hold? And sometimes you can write down, okay, my go-to attitude with my spouse is going to be, I am grateful that you're here. What is my go-to attitude going to be with my child? So from ERDC, I love you unconditionally. Tum jaise bhi ho mere ho. So you could use that as part of an attitude. Like if my child is giving me a hard time and I'm not getting through to them, I might remind myself, okay, I don't know what attitude I need to hold right now. So let me just use this go-to attitude that I had decided earlier. And my go-to attitude with my child is, okay, unconditional love, tum jaise bhi ho mere ho. So that can then, once I shift that attitude, it's going to shift my persona. It's going to shift the way I'm looking at things. It's going to shift my perspective. And then it's going to shift the way that I talk, the way that I act, and it's going to change the results. So attitude is everything. And it's one of the most powerful tools in life. And a lot of times we don't talk about it, we don't hear about it, we don't notice it. So here in this picture, what do you see? What do you notice about this picture?
Well, it's like that both the guy and the girl, they are not able to see each other's problems, right? So they have their own perspectives basically to look at this relationship, which are very different.
Yes, yes, very good. Anybody else? Anything else? What do you notice about this picture? There's no right or wrong answer. We're just looking at this picture in different ways.
Like, despite of having so much of pressure and pain, they're looking at the other person's need.
Very good. Very good. So reading the chat from earlier, Kuljit says about attitude, settled way of thinking or feeling about someone or something, typically one that is reflected in a person's behavior. Yes, attitude is reflected in a person's behavior. Attitude colors are our words and actions. Active teens taking initiative to understand driving experiences. And Asad says attitude is fluid. Yes. So attitude is fluid. And as I pay attention to what is my attitude, then I can hold an attitude. So then I can take control of it so that it's not so fluid. So I can make it fluid, or I can hold a certain attitude. So in a meeting, so often attitude, another word for that is context. And there's a tool called CPR, context, purpose, results. So often before going into a meeting, for example, a person will write a CPR. And they would, the purpose of that is like, what is the purpose of the meeting? And secondly, what context, what attitude do I need to hold to be successful, to get the best results in this meeting. So because when I go to the meeting, like Asad, you're saying, in that meeting, my attitude will be fluid. But if I pay attention and I prepare for that meeting and I write down what is the attitude that I need to hold in this meeting, then instead of it being fluid, I can hold that attitude and to help me get better results and to stay on purpose. So attitude can be used to stay on purpose. And some IM said, "Tum jaise bhi ho, mere paas tum ho." Who determines what is attitude is Asad is asking for you and from them. So me, I have to control myself. So like in the book club earlier, a couple of hours ago, one of the things that we were talking about is like relationships. And if the other person is emotionally immature, they might be crossing your boundaries. So they might have a certain attitude or a negative attitude, let's say. So I cannot control them, but I can control me. So there's an idea of circle of control. Like I cannot control other people. I can only control me. So I have to, most of the work I have to do is to keep my side of the street clean. So if I'm pointing a finger at somebody else, so that negative person is pointing a finger at me and blaming me. So what they have to remember, what we have to remember is when I'm pointing the finger at somebody else, 3 are pointing at me. So 3 of the fingers are pointing at me, which means I have to take 3 times more responsibility, or better yet, I have to focus on taking ownership and doing what I need to do. So the opposite of blaming other people, the opposite of blame is taking responsibility. So I cannot change the other person, but I can change myself and I can change how I respond. The glass of water is there, and if that is a problem that I'm looking at and the problem is real, I might not be able to change the problem sometimes, but I can change the way that I look at it. So certain things which I cannot control, certain things which are beyond my circle of control or circle of influence, I might not be able to change those things, but I can change my perception or my attitude. So that way I'm still in control. So rather than that situation controlling me or the other person pushing my buttons and controlling me. So I have to focus on keeping my side of the street clean. So that means I have to also take ownership of my attitude. And looking at the chat, Tahmina, hurting each other with their tongue. Tahira, both are in trouble but couldn't see each other's problems. Very good. And Sadaf says sometimes both helping hands are in great pain. Very good. Amia says different perspective of every person and their struggle determines their attitude. Very, very important point. So, their struggle, another way of saying or adding to that is that, people bring different things, their life experience, they bring the emotional baggage they bring. We all bring our trauma. We all bring our childhood experiences. We all bring our education and plus miseducation, education plus miseducation from our parents, from our teachers, from our preachers. So then there's some work needs to be done from, of looking at all of that and separating, deciphering the education from the miseducation. So next, there's a video. We can skip the video, but basically what they're saying is that from the woman's point of view, she cannot see. She's saying, why doesn't he pull me up? Why isn't he pulling me up? He has my hand. Save me and pull me up from out of here. She doesn't see that there's a rock preventing him from pulling her up. And similarly, the man does not see in this picture, he is not able to see or his view or perspective is limited, and he does not see that there's a snake that is, biting the woman's hand. So everything you said in the chat is the point. Attitude is a little thing that makes a big difference. So बिल्ली भी शेर हो जाती है. So attitude is a little thing which makes a great difference. The importance of self-worth in attitude, and self-image and self-confidence and self-esteem. So in Maslow's hierarchy of needs, often it's used in psychology or management, that in the hierarchy of needs, starting from biological to shelter to love and belongingness, and then the fourth need that all humans have is self-esteem. He calls it self-esteem. So that has to do with self-confidence, self-image, self-worth, and also related to achievement. So self-worth, one of the points I'm going to talk about later, is self-worth is tied to your net worth. Self-image is tied to how much I can achieve, how much I'm going to achieve, or what is my value, what is my self-worth is also tied to my net value or net worth. So we're going to talk about the power of self-talk and affirmations. So we all have problems, but the way we solve them is what makes us different. So on the road to success, there are barriers, and the barriers are going to be there. They're going to come up. So we have to use our strengths to overcome those barriers. So this is another way of saying that is, on the road to success, there will be problems. But if I get stuck on a problem-oriented approach, if I get stuck on a problem-oriented attitude, I will keep talking about the problem. So the problem is real. But if I keep talking about the problem and I don't take action, I'm going to be stuck in problem mode. So I have to shift from that problem mode to solution mode and look at my strengths and how can I overcome those barriers that are in the way. So for example, when I am facing a wall, to shift that attitude of it's not a dead end, that I can find a way out of this, that there is a door here somewhere. And so using your own strengths and resilience and creativity, being creative in trying to find solutions, using our willpower and determination. So basically everything other than quitting. So quitting is not an option is a very powerful principle. So when quitting is not an option, quitting is a back door. Once I close that back door, quitting is not an option. Then I say, okay, I have to find a solution. So shifting from problem-oriented to solution-oriented, and shifting from a fixed mindset to a growth mindset. So here in the US, in California and LA area, even in elementary school, kids who are in first, second, third grade, many of these kids are taught this idea, which is coming from a book. I forgot the name. There's some research done on this. Fixed mindset versus growth mindset. So a similar idea to attitude and being conscious of our attitude. So if I notice that I am in a fixed mindset, then I have to shift and go to a growth mindset. So in a fixed mindset, if I'm talking about failure is the limit of my abilities. And over here, growth mindset says failure is an opportunity to grow. So Fixed mindset might be like, I have this big problem that I'm facing, and growth mindset would be, it's not a problem, it's an opportunity, or it's a training ground. So, for example, one way of looking at it is like, from in the Islamic tradition, it is said that everything is a test. In other words, everything is a training. So that could be a growth mindset approach, that here's an opportunity for me to learn and grow. Although it's difficult, although it's painful, although it's uncomfortable. And all of those stuff is real. It's not, this is not about like having rose-colored glasses. So there's a scholar named Cornel West. He's running for president, I think, to talk about various important topics. So one of the things he says is, there's a difference between optimism and hope. So there's a difference between optimism and hope. So he says, he's a scholar of history, including other subjects. But he says, based on history, based on everything that I know, I'm not optimistic, but I'm hopeful. So sometimes we have to be optimistic. Sometimes it might not be realistic to be optimistic. The reality might be that this is not a situation that optimism will help me, but in that situation, what will help me is hope. And so Cornel West is African American, and another African American who ran for president in the 90s is Jesse Jackson. And often he used to say, keep hope alive. Keep hope alive, or as in Urdu we say, umid pe dunya kaim. So hope is very important. And hope and faith can pull us through those difficult situations. At any given point, just like solution mode or problem mode, there are two paths at any given point. So I can versus I can't. It's like two roads I can take. So I can have fear, and then, a principle around that is, when fear knocks at the door, faith answers. When I have doubt, I have to use courage to face those fears and doubts. When I have a problem, I have to go to solution mode. Instead of doing it later, I need to do something now. Instead of being passive, to be active. So instead of being a victim, to be a hero. Instead of being negative, to be positive. Instead of being reactive, be proactive. Instead of being stuck, to grow. So two paths that, we can choose two paths. There are two paths at any given time. Yes, no, now, later, procrastinate, be lazy, delay, or do it now, and so on. So let me check the chat real quick. Okay, Asad says too simplistic. Okay. And Sadaf says disturbing image. And Momina says mindset by Dr. Carol Dweck. Thank you for that. Yes. So she's one of the researchers who talks about this whole framework of growth mindset versus fixed mindset. And so let me see next. So we're going to talk a little bit about learning. So I put this on the flyer because these are three different images, three different concepts, which are all related. So right now we're going to talk about what's on the right. Well, no, in the middle. So this diagram in the middle is about my relationship to the world and my circle of influence, my role in the world, and the idea that what I do matters, that what I do or say, it has a ripple effect in the world. So also my circles of influence, the most control or influence I have is over me. And maybe I have a little, some influence over my family, less on my group or community, less on my city or the world. So I can take ownership. If I take ownership of my role in the world, then over here on the left, if I take ownership of my own actions, then I can say, I do have an impact on the world. The other side of that first diagram is learning. So the steps to learning are: first, pay attention; second, acquire knowledge; then third, implement that knowledge and gain experience. Knowledge plus experience is wisdom. And then you keep growing, keep learning, and get to a level of expertise or mastery. And that level of expertise can be called success. And then you are able to teach or mentor others. But that also happens all along the way, because as I mentioned earlier, if I hold a humble attitude, you are never with anyone who's not your teacher in some way. So I can always learn something from the people that I'm around. The idea of your attitude is your altitude. So how high you're going to go, your altitude depends on your attitude. Also, how low can you go? It also depends on my attitude. So as someone mentioned in the chat earlier, that attitude is based on my thoughts. It's coming from my thoughts, and my thoughts are coming from my beliefs. So then attitude colors my actions, how I behave, and attitude colors how I talk. So this is how people will sense the way that I'm talking. They'll be like, where is this guy coming from? The way that I'm acting, they might say, I like his attitude, or I don't like his attitude, because my attitude is reflected in my actions or in my behavior. Some of that could be body language. Some of that is, my gestures, the way that I'm talking, the way I'm walking, the way that I'm doing things. So I could be doing something resentfully, but I'm doing it. I'm doing it. My boss tells me to make a pizza, and I'm doing it. I'm getting it done, but I'm doing it resentfully. So that's it comes across in my attitude, in my actions. So now here's an important point, that what I do or say has consequences. So this is related to that diagram that I just showed with the circles of influence, that whatever I do or say, it's having an impact on the world. And I cannot deny that. So I have to take ownership of how I behave, how I act, what I say in the world. So in this picture, there's something missing that happens after consequences. So what is missing? What is missing in this picture? Let me go to let me go back to share. So what is missing in this picture? I hope okay. Where was I? So after consequences, something is missing. Anybody? What's missing in this picture? Right over here, after consequences. Sometimes it's hard for me to look at chat while I'm sharing. Anybody? What's missing?
It's your learnings.
Very good, very good. Anything else? What is missing? Awesome. I'm looking at the chat. I have to figure out the screen. Okay. So new attitude is missing. Very good, Hina. Kuljit, accountability, excellent. Accumulability. So accountability is exactly right. Kuljit, you're the winner. So yes, what's missing here is accountability. So, sometimes people will say, I'm not responsible for the consequences. And so what happens if there's no accountability? What happens if there's no accountability? Why is accountability important? Let me go to chat. No learning then. Yes, exactly. So who holds you accountable? That's the next question.
Yourself.
Yes. So a lot of times we are not holding ourselves accountable. We might not be paying attention to what we're doing, and then other people end up holding us accountable. But at the next level of maturity, we have to hold ourselves accountable. And so we talked about this a little bit in the earlier book club. What is the definition of insanity? So someone who was not there in this picture, I don't know how this line happened, the red line in a circle, but this line that goes from accountability over here back to beliefs. So a definition of insanity is to do the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. So like Kuljit said, if you don't learn the lesson, then I might be going back here. Like I have consequences, and I go back, I do the same action, I talk the same way, I do the same thing, same behavior, and I might be stuck in a loop. And that loop is called insanity. I'm doing the same thing over and over again, but I'm expecting different results. So same old thinking, same old results. I don't know how I did this circle, and I don't know how to get rid of this. But so another question, who is your worst enemy? Who is your worst enemy? I think we'll be done.
You yourself is your worst enemy.
Could you say that again?
I think we ourselves are our worst enemy, you know.
Yes. Very good. Tahmina, Kuljit, yes. So how are we, in what ways are we our own worst enemy? So part of it is, there's a battle going on within. So a lot of times we might not be fighting that battle that's within, and we're looking for enemies outside. So like in the US here, our favorite enemies are communism, terrorism, Islamic fundamentalism, China, Russia, Putin, brown and black people, etc., etc. So we're always looking for the enemy. We're always inventing these enemies to always be at war, because inside there's a war going on that we have not addressed. So like in the Islamic tradition, it is said that the biggest jihad is the internal battle. So what over here in on the left is so we might be stuck in a loop of insanity of doing the same thing over and over again, and we have to break the cycle. But over here on the left is affirmations. So one way that we can change our attitude and our thoughts and even our beliefs is by doing affirmations. And another important thing we can do is, in the Islamic tradition, is called tazkiyah, purification of the self, and taking accountability, like we were just talking about, the importance of accountability. So in 12-step programs, the first step is denial, or getting past the denial. So if I have a problem, if I'm in denial that, and I keep saying I don't have a problem, then I'm not going to learn anything. I'm going to be stuck in that fixed mindset of I don't have a problem. And then it might be also that when someone tries to hold me accountable, that my actions are hurting others, and then I might not be, I might be in denial and not letting other people hold me accountable. But if I'm trying to live an honorable life, then I will welcome when other people are trying to hold me accountable, as long as it doesn't look like punishment. I'm going to welcome the accountability if they're coming from an attitude of caring, if they're caring about me, that if I know that they want me to get better, then I am going to allow them to hold me accountable. And that is one way of me, getting better, or going to the next level of self-development. So this is something that I heard from Cornel West, who I mentioned earlier, who said there's a difference between optimism and hope. He said, and Socrates said that an unexamined life is not worth living. And 2,500 years later, Malcolm X built upon it, and he said, an examined life is painful. So that self-reflection, self-accountability, all of that self-examination is painful, but it is necessary. It's uncomfortable to face our demons, or to face our internal weaknesses, or our flaws, and to admit that, yeah, I have this or that that I need to improve on. And it's going to be uncomfortable to look at all of those stuff. But learning does not happen in the comfort zone. So being uncomfortable can be really, really, really good for us. So like in the Islamic tradition, one of the beliefs is like, if it's something you like, it might not be good for you. If it's something you dislike, it might be good for you. So similarly, it might be uncomfortable, but it might be good for you. So there's a song by Pink Floyd, I Have Become Comfortably Numb. And this is a series of zones. So in the middle is comfort zone. So the comfort zone is safe, and there's positive sides for that. I feel safe. Things are under control. I'm taking it easy, but learning does not happen in the comfort zone. This is one of the things I heard in the ERDC, PTCC training. And so to learn, we have to step outside of the comfort zone, and then next will be the fear zone. So overcome the fear, go into the stretch zone and the learning zone, and then to the growth zone. But if there's too much on my plate, then I can be overwhelmed. So that's the overwhelmed zone. And when it's too much, then it's the danger zone where I'm in crisis. So next we're going to talk about affirmations. So here's an example that this one is saying, I'm not, and this one is saying, I am valuable, I am capable, I am worthy. So affirmations can be used to change our thoughts, and some of those thoughts are negative self-talk. So we can use affirmations to change that. So affirmation is a tool to change our thoughts and our attitude, and it can even, over a long period, affirmation can change our beliefs. how we look at ourselves is important. Self-image, what we think about ourselves, the thoughts that we have about ourselves. So frequently, we might have negative self-talk going on. I can't do it. This is difficult. Something in me is not good enough. So those are examples of negative self-talk. So here's an example of affirmations. So what a really good tool is to use affirmations, to write your own affirmations in your own words is best. But if you don't have anything written down in your own words, use some affirmations that somebody else wrote. So there's a really good book called You Can Heal Your Life by Louise Hay. Half of this book is affirmations. This book has sold, I think, 40 million copies, came out in the 90s. You Can Heal Your Life. So negative self-talk versus positive self-talk. So all of this is going on in our mind. So if I'm mindful, if I'm paying attention, then I can notice, oh, I'm doing negative self-talk. Another way of saying negative self-talk is NST or nasty. So I'm seeing a lot of nasty things in my head to myself sometimes. And I'm beating myself up sometimes. So this is wrong with you, that's wrong with you, you did this wrong, you did that wrong. So I'm looking at the chat real quick. Hina says, our nafs amara. Dr. Khan says, an examined life is painful, but how to overcome pain and stress, and how we learn from pain. So good question, Dr. Khan. So there's a concept called PTSD to PTG. So post-traumatic stress disorder to post-traumatic growth. So beautiful way that Rumi puts it. I'm going to touch on Rumi a little bit. We're close to the end. So Rumi says, and I have this on my wall, when I work with students that I provide counseling to, the wound is where the light shines through. The wound is where the light shines through. So to answer your question, Dr. Khan, the examined life is painful. Yes, the pain, but there's another author named Robert Bly. He wrote a book for men called Iron John. And so he and others say that your biggest wound can become your biggest gift. So if I have some wounds or childhood trauma, something really bad has happened to me, and I'm going through a lot of pain, that painful state is also a meditative state. And it's painful and those problems are real. But if I don't get stuck on that, if I'm able to come out of it, then some of my biggest lessons are in that pain. So some of my biggest lessons are going to be in my biggest wounds. But I have to do that work of healing myself. And a lot of times, almost always, we need help. So I have to be supportable. I have to be teachable. I have to be coachable. I have to be open that, okay, I have this pain and I need healing and I need help from somebody that I trust. So when we have pain, you make sure you protect yourself and you open yourself up to people that you trust so that they don't wound you further. If you show your pain to people you don't trust, they can wound you further. So there's an author named Resma Menachem. He's a social worker therapist. He wrote a bestseller book called My Grandmother's Hands, and he's a African American, and he says to African American people, don't expose your wounds to white people because they can fillet you. I'm rephrasing what he said, but the idea that is just an example of when you show your wounds, make sure you show your wounds to people you trust so you can protect yourself. Tyra is asking, is learning zone always a better? No, it was like, when you go back to the comfort zone, there's nice things in the comfort zone. You enjoy your wins, you enjoy where you are. But you don't, the idea is don't get stuck there. So otherwise I'm going to become comfortably numb. And learning is not going to be happening. So another point related to that is if I'm in the comfort zone, I'm just coasting, right? I'm not going up. I'm just coasting. But one idea is that you're never coasting. You're either going up or down. So this is one of the things that is from Iqbal's philosophy of Khudi, that if you're stagnant, if you're not going up and you're stagnant, you're in the comfort zone, being stagnant. Being stagnant is not coasting. You're actually going down. So OnePlus is asking how to build affirmation. I want to overcome thoughts. So there's a lot of affirmations, awesome affirmations you can look up on the internet. Search up this book, You Can Heal Your Life by Louise Hay. Let me type it. And You Can Heal Your Life by Louise Hay. And you can find it on archive.org. And examine life is painful. Nida says, I didn't get this. So somebody mentioned earlier that when I have to look at the things that I've done wrong, if I have hurt other people, I'm examining myself. That self-examination can be painful to do. Like I have to face the things that I have done. So that's self-accountability or tazkiyah. That tazkiyah can be painful. When I'm holding myself accountable, or think of it this way, when I have done something wrong, somebody else is holding me accountable. It's gonna be painful. I won't like it. Sometimes it's painful. I'm not gonna like it. But that is good pain. That is a growing pain. It's a growing pain. So it's an examined life. My life, when I examine my life, it can be painful. But that's very important work that I need to do, because otherwise hurt people. If I have been hurt and I have not done the work of healing myself, I'm going to end up hurting other people. So as we were talking about in the book club a couple hours ago, the book about emotionally immature parents. If emotionally immature parents have not done the work of healing themselves, and they are in some kind of pain, they're going to cause pain to their kids. And those kids are going to cause pain to the next generation. And there's an author named John Bradshaw. He calls this the poisonous pedagogy. That cycle continues through generations, and somebody has to break that cycle. Okay, comfort zone, most of us strive for is an ultimate goal. Yes, but like I said, yeah, some comfort zone, strive for it, but don't get stuck there. Don't become stagnant. Because like Iqbal says, I'm going to touch on that at the end. So Iqbal has this poem of only 10 lines, Sultan Tipu Ki Wasiyat, that the idea that there's no end stage, there's no ultimate stage. So when like you're saying, the comfort zone is what we are striving for. It's the ultimate goal, not the ultimate goal, because there's no ultimate goal. So once you get to the comfort zone, then you realize I have to find another ultimate goal, like the next level. I have to go to the next level and next level. The book name of affirmations. So that one I just typed. Oh, sorry, I typed it to directly to a person. Let me type it to everyone. Okay, You Can Heal Your Life by Louise Hay. And Hina says, what when I have done wrongs myself by decisions, then how to self-examine. So book club, you can message to Sabah Masood and she can add you. It's really excellent. Today's session was like hour and a half, and it was really amazing. I learned a lot. So we are like, what I noticed was, it's like we're learning from our peers, and it was time that was very focused, very purposeful, very beneficial to everyone. We're sharing knowledge. So I think everyone there is PTCC graduates, but I think anybody can join. Name of poem by Iqbal is Tipu Sultan Ki Wasiyat. So look up Tipu Sultan if you like music at all, and you want to use music for a positive purpose. Listen to music of Nusrat Fateh Ali Khan, and I'm talking about not the pop music, but the traditional Qawwali music. So he made a beautiful version from that. Tu rahna varde shauk hai, manzil na kar kabul. So Tu rahna varde shauk hai is how you look up, the Nusrat version. And of course, he also did Diyare Ishq Mein Apna Maqam Paida Kar. So these are two of his best work of his 120, of his 200 albums. For me, the best work he did is those two Qawwalis. Diyare Ishq Mein Apna Maqam Paida Kar, it's like 30 minutes long. Tu Rahna Varde Shauk Hai, Manzil Na Kar Kabul, is like 30 minutes long. And you can use that as an affirmation. For me, I used it for years as an affirmation. In the 90s, I used it for 3 years. So 3 years as an affirmation. And I still do. Okay. So Sabai saying part 2, definitely. We can do that. So let me finish up. Back to the slides. So, like beating ourselves up, taking the whip, it's not, generally speaking, it's not helpful. The effects of negative self-talk, it includes I'm beating myself up. So anxiety, limiting my beliefs, perfectionism. So the principle is excellence, not perfection. So there's a fine line between perfection and excellence. So excellence is giving 100%, giving your best. It's not perfection. So perfection can be very, it can be very like, you might end up, beating yourself up about why am I not perfect? Why am I not perfect? So जो उर्दू में कहते हैं कि इंसान खता का पुतला है, इंग्लिश में कहते हैं to err, to make errors is human. So you have to be forgiving, and negative self-talk, you pay attention. We need to pay attention and then shift our perspective of ourselves, the self-image of ourselves, the self-perspective, from negative self-talk to positive self-talk. So to recognize each negative thought and to counter it with a positive. So one of my teachers is Christensen. He made this app. It's a free app. So download this app. It's called The Gift. When you search for the Gift app, you might not find it. So you have to write The Gift, the self-worth app, and then you will find it. And so it's a list of 7 affirmations. You can read it in like 7 minutes. And it starts with like this, I am a gift. Everywhere I go, people are happy to see me. And so on. I believe in prayer and understand how prayer works. I believe I am love, peace, light, and beauty, and so on. So it's an example of using affirmations. So he has like 7 paragraphs. I open myself to all the wealth of the universe. I allow financial, personal, physical, and spiritual prosperity to flow into my life, and so on. Another tool to use is like there's something called the Scouts Oath, and Boy Scouts, they recite an oath every day, every morning. I have another teacher who wrote a book for men called The Essential Guide for the Married Man. And every morning he recites, he's a Christian, and he recites a Christian prayer called, I think it's called the Lord's Prayer. And it starts with, give us our daily bread. So the point is, use affirmations, use prayer, definitely. And this idea that whatever I do, even the thoughts I put out into the universe. So think of the dua that I put out in the universe, it has an effect. So the idea that if someone is sick and I make dua for them, and this has been studied scientifically, they had a group of people pray for a list of patients, and they got better. So the opposite of beating yourself up, the negative self-talk, is this idea. So I'll just go quickly through this. That, the idea of who do you love? So in this picture, what's missing? Who is missing? When we talk about love and your circle of compassion, who do you love? You make a circle and you say, in my circle of compassion, I love my family, I love my friends, I love all these people, I love my teachers. Who's missing?
Yourself.
Very good. That's right. So this is called inclusive compassion. So when I draw a circle of compassion, who do I love? Then inclusive compassion is called inclusive compassion, to include ourselves in that. So that's the opposite of beating myself up. I have to give compassion to myself. So a quick example of that is I was talking to a client, and that client was saying essentially, you're worthless, you're dumb, you're ugly, and so on. These three or four things. And this client was saying these things to themselves and was depressed. So I wrote it on the board for her that these are some things you're saying to yourself, right? She said, yeah, I'm saying these things to myself. And I said, okay, now take a look at like the concept of inner child, that each person has this inner child within. And you are saying these things to your inner child. You're dumb. You're worthless. I hate you. And so I asked this client, would you say these things to anybody? And they said, I would never say these things to anybody. I've never said these things to anybody. So I asked, why are you saying these things to your inner child? So that's an example of inclusive compassion, that she has compassion for other people. She won't say mean things to them, but she is saying mean things to herself. That means she's loving to other people, but she also needs to include herself in that circle of love. I see a lot of chats there. Let me go to the chat for a quick minute. Sufi music, Dr. Nasira says, never thought of. So in the 90s, I heard this in the 90s when Nusrat Fateh Khan was at his peak in the whole world, from 1993 to 1997 when he died. I clearly heard that some psychologists in Pakistan were using Qawwali. They were using that as a prescription to tell some clients who were dealing with depression. Some psychologists in Pakistan were recommending to those patients to listen to Qawwali. So I describe it like that, like this, that ghazal is a form of music that takes you down. So I'm also a musician, so I'm saying this also from music perspective. Ghazal is a genre that takes you down, and it's often about broken-hearted, negative stuff like failed romance and all of that. And it includes a lot of like beating yourself up. I made mistakes, blah, blah, blah. So it takes you down. Ghazal takes you down and leaves you there. But Qawwali, it takes you down, and then it takes you into a meditative state, and then it brings you back up. And when it brings you back up, it brings you higher than where you started. That's a beautiful thing about Qawwali. And so Nusrat's Qawwali is different from Sabri Brothers or Aziz Mia. It's very different. So that's the prescription that I would give to anybody. Nusrat says, can you show the previous slide, 0.567? Let me see. Oh, this one. So you can get this from the Self-Worth app. And at the top of the app, there's an option that if you don't want to read, you click on this this button at the top and you can listen to it. So the way that Christensen, the one who made this app and wrote these affirmations, the way that he reads it is he will read a line and then he will pause so you can repeat it. So he'll read the next line and he will pause and then you can repeat it. So finishing up, Maslow I talked about earlier, 5 needs that human beings have. So relationships is over here, love and belongingness. Success and achievement has to do with self-esteem, self-image. And so this is where we can have an impact also on affirmations. And then, so Christensen, who wrote this app of Gift, he's a business coach, and he coaches people who are already very successful. So imagine what he's teaching them is to work on their self-worth, to improve your self-worth. It's going to raise your net worth. And he's teaching this to business people. So that could be over here on this picture, is as we improve our self-worth, it can improve our net worth or improve our Khudi or it can help us to reach our highest potential. So what he's teaching is how to, how it can make you a better business person, but also how it can improve your relationships and so on. So net worth, as we increase our self-worth, we can increase our net worth as a result. So an important point is like, who do you want to be? Who are you? Who am I? Part of it is to look at roots. Where am I coming from? And to draw wisdom from those roots. Robert Bly wrote this book called Sibling Society. The main point, one of the points is that he also calls it the orphan society or the peer society. That he says, so he's an American poet who wrote this book. He says, when the Europeans came to America, they came on ships like 150 years ago. The old people were too old to travel. So he says, we killed off our grandparents. And now lately we have killed off our parents. So we used to get wisdom from our grandparents. Then we used to get our wisdom from our parents. But now we've killed them off, meaning we cut our ties from those roots. And now we become this orphan society as if we don't have parents. And we go to peers. We become this peer society that we look for wisdom from our peers. And our peers are like, most of the time, shooting in the dark. They might not know more than us. A lot of them know more than us. But the peer wisdom is different from the wisdom of previous generations. The wisdom of previous generations, again, has to be deciphered, right? From education, from miseducation. So the point of this is that whatever is the fashion of the day, that is what the peers are doing. Like people my age are, not my age, but often people in our generation, they might be looking at whatever is the trend today, whatever is the fashion today. And that is not going to teach them wisdom most of the time. Sometimes it will. So the wisdom has to be often gained from previous generations or from books and from Iqbal, from Rumi, from the Prophet, and so on, from spiritual sources and so on, from objective sources. So like it was mentioned in ERDC that there's a gap between ilm and amal, and to minimize that gap. And higher purpose. So as I improve myself and I improve my success, so eventually I have to get to a point where as I'm teaching, but I'm also serving, I'm also sharing my knowledge, I'm also sharing my talents. So I'm also like Christensen, he's sharing this gift for free, the app. And then I have to be of service to others. A definition of higher purpose is to be of service to others. And Ishfaq Ahmed put it this way, कि बाबा कौन है, कि हर इंसान जो है ना उसको बाबा बनना चाहिए. तो बाबा वो है जो लोगों के लिए आसानियां पैदा करता है. So being of service or a higher purpose can be something as simple as I'm going to make life easier for somebody else. It could be for one person. So there's a saying, to the world, you might be just one person, but to one person, you might be the world. So again, it goes back to that circle of whatever you do has an impact, and it's important. So time is important, and so to not waste time. So in the path to success, we increase our maturity, going from a boy to a man, to a husband, to a father, to a leader, and so on. So there are different stages. You keep going up the stages, and to also to, as we do positive self-talk to ourselves, to also, to say positive things to others, like to our kids, to say, I love you. And a definition of love is the work of giving attention. Relationships, this from ERDC, relationships with nature, with Allah, with the Creator, with relatives, with family, and yourself. We're talking about relationship with yourself and self-image. There's 7 keys to relationship. And the importance of having role models, and the Prophet as an ultimate role model of success, of the different, levels or stages that we are going through. We can learn from his life. How was he as a leader? How was he as a father, husband, human being, and so on. So just wrapping up, I think 3 or 4 minutes. Find the right teachers. So to be successful, find the right teachers, mentors, peers, your crew and support system, and to have an attitude of discover, learn, and teach. Be teachable, be supportable, be coachable, listen, pay attention, learn, put the knowledge into action, become an expert, and then be of service to others. Share, and then be of service to others. This is 4 different pictures of success. The main point is that on the road to success are failures and barriers. You just have to overcome them. And the main point is, they call it grit, is consistency. This is the challenge for almost everyone, that first I have to try to figure out what to do, plan of action. And then once I have the plan of action and I start implementing it, is to be consistent in that. And that's called being disciplined. So most of the people who are successful in business, they are good at this, is they keep doing the same thing. They are consistent. They might not be the smartest, because you can have a very smart person who's not consistent, and they might not have a lot of success. So you could have an ordinary person doing extraordinary things because they're being consistent, or they're being disciplined. They're living a disciplined life. Always there are two roads in life. And I'll talk a little bit more about that after. But there's a lot of inspiration and affirmations that we can get from Rumi and Iqbal. Rumi is the most popular poet in the West in the last 15 years, which means he sold more copies than any other poet in the last 15 years. So people are, in the West are really appreciating his wisdom. And I also urge you to go to two YouTube channels. One is Allama Iqbal. It's called Allama M. Iqbal. And the other one is Dabistane Iqbal. They have really amazing videos, which are courses. And one of them is talking about Rumi, but most of it is Iqbal. Okay, so this is the 7-line poem I was talking about, Sultan Tipu Ki Wasiyat by Allama Iqbal. Ajue aap बढ़ के हो दरियाए तुंदो तेज साहिल तुझे अता हो तो साहिल ना कर कबूल. So every couplet ends with manzil na kar kabul, or something like that. So just going through this quickly so we can finish. But here's another form of affirmation you can use. Yaqeen mohkam amal pe hum muhabbat fateh alam alam jihad zindagani mein yeh mardon ki shamsheerein. That I can use that as an affirmation, that firm belief, consistent action, and love are the tools for us to conquer the world or to be successful. So always two roads. One is kind of being problem-oriented, being kind of in a victim mode. One is hero mode. Do it, from don't do it to do it, from fear and doubt to conviction and courage, from procrastination to doing it now, from addiction going to commitments, from being problem-oriented to solution-oriented, from fixed mindset to growth mindset, haram to halal, selfish to being generous, harmful to being beneficial, blaming others to taking ownership. And lastly, about attitude, about success, the attitude of gratitude. So a lot of healing can happen. A lot of shift of perspective can happen is if we go to this attitude of gratitude. And to help get an attitude of gratitude, some people, they write a daily list of gratitude list. I'm thankful for this. I'm thankful for that. I'm grateful for this. I'm grateful for that. And that thankful can put you in a certain frame of mind. So I went to some training. It's called Reiki healing, which is energy healing. And in that, they don't talk about prayer, but they say this, like before you're about to heal somebody through energy healing, to get into that mode of healing somebody else, you get into a mode of gratitude. So as you get into this mode of gratitude, you're going to start channeling some positive healing energy. And then you with your hands, you point at someone and you say, okay, you say to God, heal this person. So that's the power of gratitude. So combine gratitude with prayer, combine gratitude with affirmation, it becomes really powerful to be successful. And so I'll stop there. And any questions and answers, you can email me, kawali@yahoo.com without a U, easy to remember. Global Zebra at YouTube, globalzebra.blogspot. And now we can do Any questions? I'll look at some of the chat. Self-love. And Sabah, are you still here?
Yes, I'm here. Thank you so much for this amazing session. I learned a lot, and I really need this session. I have a lot of questions and a lot of discussions I need to do with you, which cannot happen right now. So maybe we can have a part two. Yeah, but I was, yeah, if you can do that quickly, I was just wondering if we are having a life, I have to face a new situation, like I'm going for a new job or something. And so how do I change my attitude before, like entering that situation?
Really good question. So I should have put this in the slides, and I forgot to put it there. But also, if you can, Sabah, if you can put a link to the book club, a few people in the chat are asking, and so now I will answer your question. So Sabah, this is a very powerful tool called CPR. CPR, I'm going to put it in the chat: context, purpose, results. So this concept of attitude that I'm talking about today, it's also called context. So what context are you holding means what attitude are you holding. So before going to a new job, going to a meeting, an event, people will use this tool called CPR, and they will write it. So there's a YouTube video. Sometimes it's hard to find. Give me like 10 seconds, see if I can find it. Context, purpose, results. So this is a very powerful tool. And okay, found it. So this is a 1-hour training, which can really, really help you be successful. So I'm going to put it over here. So this link that I just shared is talking about this tool, context, purpose, results, or CPR. So CPR, they say CPR will save your life. So to answer your question, Sabah, before you go to the meeting or the start a new job, you take some time to write a CPR. And most of the time you start from the bottom. You start from results. You write down, what are some results that I want? So if I'm going to a meeting, what are the results that I want in this meeting? If you're going to write a result, if you're going to write a CPR about the job, what results do you want from this job? And then once you write the results, then you go to the next level, purpose. Based on these results I want, what is the purpose? So in this meeting, I want these results. What is the purpose of this meeting? So now I have clearly identified a purpose. So this is kind of like the Islamic idea of niyyah. So you're setting an intention, but also you're being very purposeful. You're very clear about the purpose of this meeting is this, written down. The purpose of me doing this job is this. And you figure that out, you figure out the purpose after you write down the results. But after looking at the results, you summarize the results in the form of a purpose. Now, the third step, look at the results, plus look at the purpose, and you say, what is the context I need to hold? What is the attitude I need to hold so I can stay on purpose and get these results? So this is a 1-hour YouTube course. It has like 9 segments. You try that. It's really, really powerful tool, and you will find it hard to find on the internet, but people are using this.
Oh, thank you so much.
Sure, you're welcome. Any other questions? I'm happy to answer questions which are not related to this. Oh, somebody had in the chat. Sorry, somebody had a question in the chat. Let me go back to that. I'm diagnosed with anxiety disorder. What stuff can you suggest? So the idea of one way of looking at anxiety is this. Here's the present, right? If I'm depressed, is one factor is I'm living in the past. If I'm worried, one way of looking at that is I'm living in the future. If I have anxiety, I'm living in the future is one factor. There's other factors. So if one factor is if I'm depressed, I'm living in the past. If I have anxiety, one factor is I'm living in the future. So I have to live in the present. So how to live in the present? There are many, many amazing tools. So one of the really amazing tools is you look for Huberman Lab. Huberman is he's a neuroscientist. He does a lot of research on, and it's at Stanford University. He has like 200 episodes. You go check it out. You'll find literally dozens and dozens of tools to deal with anxiety, depression, or just how to be successful, how to be more successful, how to become, going more to the top of that Maslow's pyramid of self-actualization, or what, Iqbal calls
Oh,
Khudi.
yeah, sorry for interruption. I not got the name of the you know psychologist. I not get the name. What you said?
So I typed it in the chat, is Huberman, Huberman.
Okay, thank you.
So look up Huberman Lab. You will come to this. I think he's a neuropsychologist. He's a researcher. You will have podcasts, like 200 podcasts. So imagine an expert, talking about various tools, the powerful tools that, they're doing research and they're proving that these things work. So for example, in psychology, not a new field, but one of the fields that is getting a lot of notoriety lately is called somatic. Somatic is body practices. So in psychology, there are two approaches: from top down, from the mind to the body, and then bottom up. And Huberman has, I think, a whole episode on this. Bottom up is from the body to the mind. So if we're talking about anxiety or stress and so on, we can do things with the mind, like breathing, like mindfulness and so on. But we can also do body practices like breathing, which will affect the mind. So to reduce anxiety, I can do body practices like just monitor my breathing. So there's a amazing teacher named Thich Nhat Hanh. Highly recommend him. He's a Buddhist monk. He passed away, I think, 1 or 2 or 3 years ago. Has like 60 books, written in very simple ways. He has, so look him up, and Google Talk. So Google Talk, Thich Nhat Hanh, he's speaking at Google. So there will be two versions. One is 4 hours and one is 2 hours. 2 hours does not have the singing and chanting, so you can just go to the 2 hours. It's a really good summary, and he will share tools, including like breathing techniques. So other tools like somatic approach is, for example, when you're stressed or when you have anxiety or you want to shift your mind, you go to like what kids do, those monkey bars. You hang from a bar. So like on my doorway, I have a bar, a pull-up bar, You can buy for like $30-$40. It fits over these, doorways in America, because the doorways are pretty standard here. So this bar just fits there. You don't have to screw it in. You can hang from it. And so this is an example of a body practice that will affect your mind. Real quick, another one body practice is called butterfly hug. So you put your hands together like this, and then face them toward you. And your fingertips, you're going to place them on your collarbone. And you just go like this, or just look this up. It's called butterfly hug. So you do this like 30 seconds, 1 minute, and it can have a shift in your mind. One other thing about mental health is to get out of your head and into your body. So you go do some body practice, go do some like walk, and focus on the basics. Like, don't ignore the basics, like get enough sunshine every day, get enough sleep every day, eat healthy. These are basics that easy to overlook. It sounds simple, but a lot of times that's where the problems are. A lot of times. Other questions? Let me see. Let me go to the chat.
And the reading material?
Reading material.
What can you suggest for that, sir?
For anxiety?
Yeah.
So anxiety is also overthinking, right? Would you say?
Yeah, I'm drowned in that.
Okay. So when reading, look for something that's going to make you feel positive. So it can be, sometimes you can read something that's fiction and a book, and it takes you into this other world, into this other story, and it shifts your mind. But what you want to do is a practice that reduces your thoughts. Like if you're overthinking, you want to do a practice that reduces your thoughts. So for that, a simple practice is just monitor your breath. And this is a technique from Thich Nhat Hanh. There are many different breathing practices, so you try different ones. But the simplest one is this. You don't change your breath, you just monitor your breath. So do like 3 breaths right now. So do this for like 10-20 seconds. So you just monitor, like when you have a pet, dog or cat, how do you know it's breathing? You see the bellies rising up and down, right? So you are going to observe yourself as a third person. So you just observe, just notice your belly is going up and down. So you notice, I'm breathing in, now I'm breathing out. Don't change your breath. Just look, just notice, I'm breathing in, I'm breathing out. Now add one more thing. As you breathe in, you say, welcome. As you breathe out, say, thank you. Welcome. Thank you. Welcome. Thank you. You can use any other word. You can say, Ya Hayyu, Ya Qayyum. You can say, Ya Latif, Ya Rahman, Ya Rahman, Ya Rahim. You can use, you're just noticing your breath. I'm breathing in, I'm breathing out. What's going to happen is it's going to get you out of those overthinking. It's going to get you into the present moment. So anxiety, part of anxiety is I'm in the future. I'm worried about what's going to happen. So from the future, it's going to, the paying attention to my breathing is going to bring me to the present moment. And Thich Nhat Hanh says, your home is in the present moment. Your home is in the present moment. So a lot of times we're looking for, I want to feel at home. I'm in America for 44 years. I don't feel at home. I I want to go home to Pakistan. Uh, But what he says, your home is in the present moment, in this breath. So that breathing exercise is going to put me in the present moment, and my home is in the present moment. I will start to enjoy it. I will start to feel a peace of like as if I'm home. I have to go anywhere. I have to go dwell on the past. I don't have to dwell on the future. Just look at my breath. So once I stop that breathing exercise, let's say I do this breathing for 10 minutes, then the overwhelming thoughts can come back. But you do it again. One more quick technique is this. This is called heart breath. So put your right hand on your heart. Take 10 deep breaths, but imagine you're breathing through your heart, like the breath is coming through your heart, like exhale. 10 deep breath, like as deep as you can go. So do it with me. So deep breath in through your heart. Really feel it in your heart. So deep breath in through your heart. So you do these 10 breaths, these hard breaths. There's a guy named Joe Dispenza who came up with this. But the idea is, he says, when you start feeling anxiety, when you start feeling stressed, your body puts these hormones into your bloodstream, and they stay in your system for 48 hours. So if I'm starting to get depressed and I let that happen, I'm going to be depressed for at least 48 hours. If I'm getting a lot of anxiety and I let that happen, I'm going to be depressed for like 40. The effects are going to be there for 48 hours. So the idea is you catch that early. You see the stress coming, you see the stress or anxiety or depression coming, the negative thoughts coming. You do these 10 deep breaths, and that's going to stop some of that. You're throwing a monkey wrench in the system. So then once you're done with the 10 breaths, then after a few minutes, you might feel anxiety again. Then you do 10 breaths again. And so on the first day, you might have to do it 50 times. On the second day, it might be 40 times, but eventually it might be 5 times a day. So it's an example of how you can do body practices to affect the mind. And it reminds me of this other very powerful book. I mentioned Resma Menachem. The book is My Grandmother's Hands. And if you can't find the book in your country, look up his name and look up the Breakfast Club. Breakfast Club is a radio show. So he had 3 interviews on that. Go to the oldest interview, and you will get some tools. Look him up on YouTube, and you will get tools. He talks about various things. So let me look at the other chat. Procrastination. that's the comfort zone, right? A lot of us deal with procrastination. Some people say, one of my friends said, people who procrastinate are often very smart. They know they can get things done at the last minute. That's the positive side. But you have to ask this question, like, what is my purpose in life? Or what is my purpose today? And so get into a purposeful mindset. What is at stake? In accounting, they call it, in business, they call it opportunity cost. When I'm wasting my time, when I'm on my gadget and just having fun, what am I losing? What is the opportunity cost? So, listen to some motivational speakers, for example. You can actually do a search on Google and say, how do I get out of procrastination? Another question by Dr. Khan. Actually, I won't mention the names because it was sent directly to me. Oh man. So some of these things I put directly to people instead of to everyone. So let me do that. Go back and so the Buddhist teacher is Thich Nhat Hanh. When you listen to these teachers, it doesn't mean you're going to become Buddhist. So nobody has a monopoly on wisdom. So I think this is from the Islamic tradition that for a moment, knowledge is everywhere. So we have to receive wisdom and knowledge from many sources. Okay, Huberman Lab, I put that in. Okay. So looking at the chat real quick, how to seal our mind, heart from negative talk of others, and that suffers our heart, that hurt our emotions, how to become hero of our life, that we don't hear negative talk of others and affect our peace of mind and so on. So I'll share this with you that there are many, that's a difficult situation. It is a difficult situation. That's reality. Part of it is going to be, you have to get mad. You are angry and you have to find an expression, find a positive way to channel that anger, those emotions. You have to channel them out and don't hold them in. So you have to find ways to manage those emotions. And sometimes you are very good, almost always, a good way of healing emotions is to cry. If you're having trouble crying, you can listen to some sad music or watch some sad movie. There's plenty of old Bollywood movies which are tear jerkers. But it won't make the problem go away, but it can make you feel better so that you don't hold on to the emotions. So some of those you have to let them out. And then the other part is, like, you have to work on yourself to make yourself more and more stronger to the point that what others do doesn't affect you. So this is from the book 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. The idea that there are 3 stages. One is dependency, then independence, and then interdependence. So if I'm at the dependent level, then people are able to control me. So if I'm independent or self-sufficient, so if I'm emotionally self-sufficient, then if I get to a certain level of emotional self-sufficiency, then other people cannot hurt me emotionally. They cannot push my buttons because they are not controlling my emotions. I'm in control of my emotions. So you have to get to that level of self-sufficiency, of emotional self-sufficiency, and so on. You have to become more and more internally stronger. And one of those tools one of the tools definitely to be used is spiritual practice. So as you practice more, do more spiritual practice, also dua. So in that dua, you make dua for yourself, but also for that person. So somebody told me this, that an affirmation. So you can turn this into a dua. So the affirmation was, it happened to me years ago. I was having a very difficult time with this very difficult boss. She was being very mean to me. So I think it was from the book You Can Heal Your Life or somewhere else. this affirmation. You take the name of that person. So that's, let's say that the name of that person is, I don't know, name of a person, Guddu. Guddu, I bless you with love. I set you free and I set myself free. Parveen, I bless you with love. I set you free and I set myself free. Javed, I bless you with love. I set you free and I set myself free. So you say this 1,000 times, you're putting something positive in the air. You turn that into a dua, you're putting something positive in the air, and that can disarm them. And it can also change, it can also shift your attitude. So when you are with that person, they can sense your attitude. So if my boss, if she sees me, she's being mean to me, and I dislike her, I despise her, I resent her. She's seeing all of that in my attitude. She's sensing it in my attitude that I'm resentful, that I have a grudge against her. I don't like her. Even if my face, I might be smiling, but she can sense that vibe, right? Like somebody said at the beginning, persona we radiate. So I'm radiating, I don't like you, you're a mean person. And when she receives that, it's going to trigger her. So you have to get to a level within yourself, and it takes time, it takes years. I'm still working on it, right? At different levels. You go to the next level of not letting them affect you so much. And also you have to have some protection on. Don't be so sensitive with a lot of people. That idea, you have to protect yourself. It's something like a shell, but not a fake shell, but it's a protective shell. You put this, like for a battle, you put some armor on. So it doesn't have to be fake, but you hold your heart, you protect your heart so you don't get hurt so easily. So some ideas. Procrastinating, we talked about it. Urgent but important, that's a good way of looking at it. Like, is it urgent? Is it important? So do what's urgent, then do what's important. I know I want to live in the present moment, but I am lagged. People who procrastinate a lot. Is it connected to childhood trauma? People who find it difficult to focus on a particular task that needs to be done or give. Okay, so thank you for these questions. It's bringing, some ideas and solutions to my mind. So there's a tool called isochronic tones. So I'm going to put something in the chat. So I believe you will find this also on Huberman, but if you don't, there's plenty of other people who have been using this. So there's a thing called isochronic tones and binaural beats. So this is a tool for anxiety, for focus. Somebody asked for studying. So I was doing my master's degree 5 years ago. It's a 3-year program. And believe me, I use this a lot. So this channel, the guy's name is Jason Lewis. He's one of many. I'm just using him as an example. So when you go to this channel, you look for, like, you want to go to deep sleep, you want to take a nap, do a search on that. You will find, some tones, some music that's going to help you do that. You want to study, he has a lot of stuff to help you study, to focus, to improve cognition, for healing and so on. So the idea is this. Sometimes it's just tones and sometimes it's mixed with music. But the idea is this. usually you have to listen to this with headphones. When I have the headphones on, in this ear, in my right ear, is getting one tone. In the left ear is getting a different tone with a different timing. So if I listen to only my right ear, I'm hearing one tone. If I listen to only my left ear, I'm hearing a different tone. But when I hear from both ears, now these tones are different, but in my mind puts it together. So when my mind puts it together, it's going to take me to certain brain waves, alpha wave, delta wave, and so on. So they figure out how to use these tones to get to create certain brain waves. So how do they use some tones to help you go to sleep or to relax or to get in a meditative state? They use other tones to help you focus. So a very powerful tool. You can use it for studying. You can use it to get deeper sleep, and so on. So binaural beats, isochronic tones. Just go to that channel by Jason Lewis and listen to different ones. When you're looking for something to help you focus and study, listen to different pieces and find the one you like and use that. Question: how to steal? Okay, we talked about that. Procrastinating. So you can use that like to study, like some of those tones mixed with music, or with some are without music. Those people who don't want to listen to music, there are these tones which don't have music. People who procrastinate, is it childhood trauma? So childhood trauma, in psychology, there's a thing called ACEs, adverse childhood experiences. So childhood trauma, one way of looking at that is a person had adverse childhood experiences. So they can be many things, stressful things. It could be separation of parents. It could be divorce. It could be migration. It could be racism. It could be a number of things, like the parent is sick, the loss of the death of someone close. So then when somebody interviews this person and they ask them, did you have these adverse childhood experiences in your life? So let's say there's a list of, let's say, 10 or 20. So if the person has had one or two, you could say they've had some trauma. If a person has 10 or 5 or more, you could say they've had a lot of trauma. A connection, so that trauma can affect the person in many ways. So speaking of trauma, again, the idea of PTSD, go from PTSD to PTG. So PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, trauma happened. Yes, it was real. Yes, it's painful. Yes, I'm wounded. All of that is true. But now I need to find a way to not be stuck there. When I'm victimized by other people, the damage is real. But I have now, at some point, I have to find a way to not get stuck at that place. So I have to find a way to move out of that. So there's some work to be done, some actions to be taken. That's how I'm going to go from PTSD to PTG, from post-traumatic stress and trauma to post-traumatic growth. So I have to believe that's possible, and then I have to do the work to get me there, to the growth. People find it difficult to focus on a particular thought, a particular task. So use some of that Jason Lewis stuff. That's one tool to help you focus. Also, maybe do some meditation. So meditation is usually a combination of two things: concentration and contemplation. So the most successful people are usually doing meditation every day, 15 to 20 minutes, 2 times a day. So if you are person who practices Islam, you do prayer, and after prayer, take 5-10 minutes in a meditative state. There's a teacher from Pakistan, Azimi. So there's a Azimi Silsila. They have meditation halls. You can find those in Pakistan. Go to a meditation hall, learn meditation, some form of Islamic meditation or any form of meditation. You can learn it from YouTube. It's not difficult at all. The key thing is to practice. So as you practice meditation, your thoughts will become more clearer. You will notice more and more of your self-talk. Is it negative? Is it positive? The thoughts of anxiety, overthinking, and so on. Meditation is a powerful tool. How to deal with emotions associated with wrong decision that has a lifelong effect and it can be changed. So the question is this. So Yusra asked this. So Yusra, if a person made a major mistake at age 20 and they don't regret it or do tawbah, or they're in denial about it, and they live a life and they're like 80 years old and now they regret it and they ask the Creator for forgiveness, they ask Allah for forgiveness, and maybe they can ask that person for forgiveness. So will that person be forgiven? That's the question. If 20, 30, 40, 50 years after making this mistake, that person has remorse and ask God for forgiveness, will that person be forgiven? So that's the thing. You said yes. That's the answer, right? There's a story of, like in the Islamic tradition, there's a story that I'm not remembering fully, but there's an idea that even when the world is ending and you have a chance to plant a seed, do it. So the idea that, believe in a God who's generous, believe in a God who's forgiving, believe in a God who's loving, believe in a God who's kind, Rahman, Rahim, maybe do zikr on those names of Allah. And trust, have faith that if you do truly tawbah and you're doing tazkiyah of nafs, tazkiyah of nafs, if you're sincere, what do they say, that God sees what's in our heart, and where does God live? So so if you're sincere about the remorse and learning from the mistake, and we all make mistakes, but if we are sincere and genuine and truly learn from that, then we have to trust that God will forgive us. And otherwise, if you keep beating up yourself, it's not going to help. And I don't think that God wants me to harm myself by beating myself up, even if it's just mentally. So going back to chat. So so in 12-step programs related to forgiving yourself, there's a step called making amends. So if possible, find that person and ask for forgiveness and ask, what can I do? So my name comes from a Sufi from Iraq. His name was Fazil bin Ayaz. His story is that he was he was a Muslim, but he became a bandit, Dakuta. and he had a gang, and he would rob these caravans. And he did this for many years. He harmed a lot of people. He stole from a lot of people. So then one day him and his gang was about to attack this caravan. And the people in the caravan knew this guy, his reputation, that he's there, that he can attack any caravan. So somebody in the caravan was reciting the Quran. तो कोई कुरान की तलावत कर रहा था. So he read this. He this was part of the Quran he was reciting, was this ayah that meant something like, you have to pay for everything you've done. You're going to be held accountable by God. For some reason, at that moment, this ayah hit his heart, and he stopped. And he said, what I'm doing is wrong. And he told his gang, I'm going to stop doing this. I'm going to stop being a bandit. And he said, and I advise you to do the same. Stop looting people. And then he spent like the next several years, more than 10 years of his life, to go return these things that he had stolen from the people he had stolen. He would find them and he returned the things he had stolen from them, robbed them. And then when he ran out of all those, anything, then he said, he would go to the people and say, I'm going to pay you back by working for you. By the time he was making these amends, repairing the damage that he had done, he was an old man, and he was, at the end, there was a guy holding him for 10 years that you had to keep working for me. You have not paid off your debt. So by then he became an old man, still paying, still doing amends. And then somebody talked to that other guy and said, you got to let this guy go. And then all of that became a spiritual path for him. So back to the chat. After COVID, Muraqabah is, yes, meditation. And there are many ways of doing it. Do something, right? You don't have to find the perfect one. As you're trying to find different ways of meditation or different ways of breathing techniques, just do something. Do something right now. So there's from the movie The Last Samurai with Tom Cruise, there's a saying, there's a quote from there. A samurai does what he can until his purpose is revealed. Another way of saying that is, a person should do what you can until your higher purpose is revealed. So do whatever is in front of you right now. So if you're not meditating, do meditation. If you're not using breathing techniques, use some breathing technique. So very quickly, one very important point about breathing is this. As long as the exhale is longer than the inhale, that's what's going to relax you. Literally, if you do 10 breaths, and the inhale, is 4 counts. Hold for like 4 counts. Exhale for more than 4 counts. As long as the exhale is longer than the inhale, that's what's going to relax you. If you do 10 breaths, you will notice your voice change. You will notice right away. So when in the US, when someone gets pregnant, they can go to these Lamaze classes or breathing classes. And the teacher there said, it has been proven scientifically that when a woman is giving birth to a child, the deep breathing has the same effect as reducing pain as pain medication. So deep breathing is very powerful in many ways. So just quickly catching up on the chat so we can wrap up. Is it normal to fall asleep during meditation? It's very common. So, but you don't want that. If it happens for a while, it means you need rest. Don't beat yourself up about it, but but you want to make sure that you don't fall asleep. So sit up straight, keep your back straight, maybe not lean on a chair, but keep your back straight. And it also is telling you that maybe you need more sleep. And just keep doing it. And keep doing it. If you fall asleep, it's not ideal, but try to not fall asleep. Okay. I have been in mental health services for 40 years. This input is a gem that is needed by so many. Would like to add a few points. Spirituality. Train yourself to call for Allah within our heart and lips and mind. For in the remembrance of Allah, the hearts will be of peace. Arad 28. For all events that we face, keep telling ourselves that our job is to stay focused to Allah and trust that Allah will be with us. Thank you for those very important reminders. And I will put the recording on YouTube. It might take me a day or two or a few. And Allah cares for all of us. Allah cares for all of us ritual. All the rituals as a Muslim is for self-preservation. Wudu helps with vagal system. Salat is just wonderful. Many aspects of healing, fasting, gut healing. Thank you so much for bringing that also. And you mentioned vagal health. It reminds me of another tool, polyvagal theory. So you look that up, and so those who were talking about anxiety and so on, stress and so on, other people causing emotional harm to you. So this polyvagal theory is that the second biggest nerve in the body is called the vagus nerve, VAGUS. And it runs down the body and also touches like the sound box. So one practice, and there are many practices to stimulate the vagus nerve, which can help us to get grounded and get more relaxed. So for example, singing and humming and zikr and talawat, and so it's an example of stimulating the vagus nerve to get more relaxation. So with that, I'm going to close. Thank you so much for everyone who attended and those who have stayed on for so long in this long session. And inshallah, we'll do another one. You can contact me. And if you need more resources, I have plenty of suggestions that I can share with you. I'm happy to share. So take care. Thank you so much for joining. And inshallah, we'll do it again. If you want to do it again, announce it in your groups, get some people together, and I can show up. And with that, I thank you, and God bless you, and I hope may Allah help you in all of your good pursuits, and take care. Assalamu alaikum.